Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Full Press Hockey Weekly Show. Pre-game, Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final, the best damn pre-game show in the business. We've been rocking and rolling with you for the first 3 games of the Stanley Cup Final. My name is Jim Biringer, the host of the voice of Full Press Hockey and the host of this show, rocking, rolling with my co-host Chris Wassel. We are here. It's Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. It is presented by Betalytics, 25% off using FPH24, the promo code. Stanley Cup Final, Game 4 odds and plays up right now. We like Evan Rodriguez overshot total 1.5. We also like the under for Connor McDavid assists at 1.5. We are here. Florida Panthers take Game 3, 4-3. The scoreline wasn't even close to how badly dominated the Florida Panthers dominated the game. They were up 4-1 at one point. They scored 2 goals in 94 seconds. The Cup's going to either be hoisted tonight or we're headed back to South Florida for Game 5. And I don't think the Florida Panthers are going to take their foot off the gas pedal like we saw with the Boston Celtics, Chris.
I can't afford to, really. Look, we joke that we're now in the super sprint portion of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Look, unlike other series that shall remain nameless, because wait a minute, hold on, did the Mavericks just score again? I think they did.
I think they did.
It is not a secret that Florida wants to end this as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people want to deal with the nightmare travel again that a lot of journalists had getting to Edmonton and then probably have to go back to Florida. So they're hoping the Florida Panthers can do this thing. Look, now Chris Knobloch and Stuart Skinner and a lot of the Edmonton Oilers players, they were talking about, hey, there's a lot of belief in this organization. If there's a team that can do it, we can do it. Look, the Oilers have gone on winning streaks before. They've gone on multiple 7-game winning streaks throughout the season. They had a 16-game winning streak before. But to win 4 games in a row against this Florida Panthers team, the way they lock down defensively, and oh, by the way, when they have a lead, they're 44-0-3 after 2 periods. I mean, that's pretty tough to do to beat this team. And you look at it, right? Like, yes, the Edmonton Oilers were able to score 5-on-5, surprisingly, but they threw pucks on net, a couple of bounces here and there, get past Bobrovsky. The power play still 0 for 10 in the series. Connor McDavid had 2 assists. Great. Leon Draisaitl, no show. He's not doing much. Hyman. All these guys that are supposed to be doing stuff aren't, because that's how good the Florida Panthers defense is playing right now. They're winning puck battles. Hey, look, the former Flames, the Battle of Alberta boys, Bennett, Tkachuk connected on the goal in Game 3. Yep. And look, I know a lot of people want to point to the Oilers are beating themselves in this series. Let's be honest. The reason they're beating themselves is because Florida is that good and that aggressive. No matter where they are in the offensive or defensive zones, they are that aggressive, causing these turnovers.
Right, and a lot of people have talked about, and look, rightfully so, the job that Barkov and Forsling have done against the top line at Edmonton. How about the second lines?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Edmonton has no second line right now.
Mm-mm.
Not that they have much of a first line at even strength, but at least the first line was generating some chances. The second line is doing nothing, and that's where Tkachuk and Bennett come in. Literally, they've just been like a bowling ball in this series. And you look at the Brandon Montours of the world who, look, Brandon Montour came back from off-season surgery and looked like a shell of his former self for, what, a month?
Yep.
It took a while. Anybody remember that now?
Nope. Well, look, Ekblad had off-season surgery. Montour had off-season surgery, and these guys are playing as well as to be expected. Look, remember, Gustav Forsling is taking over for Aaron Ekblad on the power play for the Florida Panthers. Let's remember who used to be on PP1. It was Aaron Ekblad. He's turned into a defensive defenseman now. He's not the guy he used to be when they drafted him. Okay? You look the guys they brought in, the Sam Reinharts, the Montours. Look, remember, Forsling was a waiver claim And now he's got probably the best defensive contract in the NHL for what they're paying him. You have Reinhart, you have Bennett, you have Tkachuk, obviously, and you look at back a couple years ago now is when in a few months from now to be the 2-year anniversary of the Huberdeau to Calgary, Tkachuk, that whole trade that went down. But there's a reason why Bill Zito wanted to blow up his team, right? Look, they were the President's Trophy winners, but they didn't understand how to play defense. And that's what we're seeing, right? Look, I put it in my story up on FullPressHockey.com. Crystal liked the reference. I used the Scotty Bowman quote from Game 3 after the 1995 Stanley Cup Final when the Devils just completely dominated the Detroit Red Wings. The score was 5-2 in the end. It was 5-0 at one point in the game. They beat Detroit, beat them badly. And I remember Scotty Bowman, Hall of Fame guys, won the Cup 13 times. He said it was the most humiliating, embarrassing, disappointing loss he's ever been in the Stanley Cup Final. When you get this far in a Stanley Cup Final, that's the most disappointment and embarrassment he's felt. He said he told some guys they didn't even need a shower. That's how it felt for the Edmonton Oilers through 2 periods. Yes, they got 2 goals in the third period and they put a charge on, but they weren't getting past Bobrovsky another goal. And all the talk about beating Bob high and this and that, they just don't have time to shoot high. They don't have it.
And they haven't for most of the series. Only a few times here and a few times there, but no sustained pressure. And when you don't get sustained pressure, it has an effect, and it's affected Edmonton immensely in this series. To the point where, we saw what happened at the end of Game 2.
Mm-hmm.
You can debate what you want. It didn't matter in Game 3 because, let's be honest, Leon Draisaitl didn't play all that well in Game 3 either. So it was like he wasn't there anyhow.
Right.
However, the key point, one of the other key points that was lost in Game 3 is the fact that Darnell Nurse somehow played and was even worse than he had in all series.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, nothing has changed. He is playing tonight.
Look, I haven't, obviously we'll probably get some lineups in a little bit if we're still on the show. But, Nurse, Perry. Look, they got to put stuff in a blender, right? You got to take it. Look, you can't win 4 games tonight. You got to win 1. And, I was listening today. Duncan Keith was in the room. He talked to the team the other day on the off day. And he said, look, they were down. That Chicago team in 2011, everybody forgets the Vancouver Canucks had to exercise some demons because they had lost to Chicago how many times in a playoff? And they were up 3-0 in that series. And Chicago forced a Game 7 and forced overtime in Game 7. And they ended up losing. But if you can get 1, there's belief you can get 2. And if you can get 2, okay, now the pressure's really on. Right. The problem is the as much as the Edmonton Oilers have talked and Chris Knobloch has talked about, they've shown signs of beating this team. They haven't beat this team, okay? The signs are, yes, they've been able to get through the neutral zone trap, the defense, but they haven't been able to beat Bobrovsky consistently. They've had 4 goals in the game in this series, 0 on a power play. That has to change if the Edmonton Oilers think they can come back in this series.
No, it's absolutely true. We have seen it, albeit not in the NHL playoffs. So the Calder Cup playoffs.
Mm-hmm. But even the team that came back in the Calder Cup ended up losing in 7.
And in overtime.
Right. So again, there's the reference. There's a belief that it can be done, but you have to consistently show it, and they're not consistently showing it.
Yeah. Look, no one's saying that Edmonton can't win tonight.
No.
But can they put enough of an effort together for something close to 60 minutes that will get the job done?
That's the big question mark.
And I don't know that answer because, we haven't seen it.
Yep. We have not seen it, and we haven't seen it consistently enough. right? There's stretches. They played a great game one. Game two was okay, but it's we saw parts of it in game three. They played a great first period and was down 1-0 because again, Evan Bouchard has not had the greatest of series. Mistakes. Darnell Nurse turnover led to a goal. Bad play by Stuart Skinner in the corner led to a goal. The Oilers' mistakes are ending up in the back of the net, and you cannot do that against a good team like the Florida Panthers. But the Florida Panthers have been doing this all playoffs long to every team. So it's not like, and I don't want to hear, like some people have said, oh, Dallas would have put up a better series. Oh, really? I think it's still 3-0 if it's Dallas, to be honest.
Yeah, people forget that, Dallas, for what it's worth, was 1 or 2 goals from being almost swept by Edmonton.
Right. So
let's be honest about this here. Again, you look at the overall numbers. They're, because of score effects, the even strength numbers are a little actually tilted towards Edmonton, except in the most important department, of course. And that's goals. 5-on-5, it has not been a contest.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't been close. It hasn't been close. And look, Edmonton, yes, they've had 4 goals in a series. They've been all at even strength. They've had great looks on the power play, but they just can't score. Sergei Bobrovsky is playing well, and he's showing the importance of having a number 1 goaltender. Like, I don't want to harp on this any longer. Like, the Florida Panthers D is good. This is the same thing we saw in New Jersey for how many years with Marty Brodeur. Oh, Brodeur wins because of the system. Oh, really? What was it? What if he's not there?
I don't think they win any Stanley Cups.
Right, exactly. So you can have a great defense, but if you have an elite goaltender to stopping a puck when he's supposed to be stopping the puck and being in the zone, look, Bobrovsky is... Look, and I'm not saying Stuart Skinner's playing bad. He's not. Yeah, the second goal, definitely okay.
Little yacker there.
Right. The goal on Barkov, he even wasn't sure where he was shooting. But all the other goals in the series have not been his fault. I mean, even the first goal in game 3 was not his fault. I mean, Bouchard, there was a miscommunication 4-on-4, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
So, look, if you're in that room, you have to believe, but it's hard because how good the Florida Panthers have been. Defensively, they just stymie you, as we've talked about, led by Barkov, and it's a complete buy-in. And I like what Paul Maurice said. If you're not excited about today and enjoying the moment today, then I don't know what you're playing for. And he's right. I mean, look, it's do or die for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. And look, the statistics has shown every time they've been down 3-0 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they usually get swept. And do I see a game 5? Do I foresee a game 5? There's a possibility. I just think if the Panthers get a lead, it's all she wrote.
They don't give up leads.
No, they don't. They play defensively smart hockey. And that's what you have to... I mean, you look at it, right? What Paul Maurice has done since coming over here is having this team buy in. Yeah, it took a year for them to... Most of last year to figure out what he wanted, which is expected. And now look what they are doing. They've put together really good seasons. There's a reason why they're a win away from winning the Stanley Cup. It's called 60 minutes to success.
Yeah. And it works. It's worked all year. Have they had little dips here and there? Sure. But when it comes to the playoffs and playing the same team over and over again, the last 2 years, the best team at it has been the Florida Panthers. Last year you could even make a case they could have won the Stanley Cup had they been able to stay even a semblance of somewhat healthy. It just wasn't going to happen last year.
It's like the way that the Edmonton Oilers are going this year, right? It's like they're getting hurt at the wrong time.
Yeah, you gotta believe several players are considerably banged up, and they're not dealing with mild MCL strains.
No, quote unquote mild MCL sprains, quote unquote. But well, that's this discussion for another time. Look, it's not. I mean, it's only happened once in the Stanley Cup Final, 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs. So the Maple Leafs can hang their hat on something. Yes, it took a shot at the Maple Leafs. Fortunately, there's a reason it doesn't happen. Look, New Jersey got to Game 6, and that was all she wrote. And again, we're not going to discuss what happened in that game. However, there are signs. I think if they can get one and break the dam on the power play, that's something that the Oilers have to be like, okay, we got one. Now we can. There's a belief. Right now, there's no belief they can score on a power play.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of this series right now. They get on the power play and it's just like, okay, now what?
It was so automatic in the first 3 rounds. Yeah, a little bit in the Dallas series early on, they weren't able to score. But man, it was automatic in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs.
And now it's just like, oh. It looks like a chore. It looks like a grind. It literally feels like, oh God, this is impossible.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel great for this team. A lot of stuff going against them. I think the crowd's got to get into it. They weren't really that as loud as I thought they were going to be honest.
Well,
granted, the Panthers did silence the building when it was 4-1.
A little bit.
But even before that, it didn't have that feel like it did in the earlier rounds.
Wow. Edmonton is pulling out all the stops tonight, though.
Yeah, what do we got?
Oh, we're pulling out Shania Twain here.
Oh wow, Shanae,
Hey, I mean, we got to win clearly, so we got to pull out First Lady of Canadian country here.
Hey, I mean, look, all the best to her. Look, she's one of my favorite artists. I'm just not sure it's going to be how it goes down for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. I mean, look, the cup is in the building, but it won't be out till later. It just has this feel that this series probably is over tonight, as much as we don't want it to be. It's got that feel, right, Chris?
Bear.
Where's the nightmare? What's the probability on the nightmare bear, by the way?
Okay, it's weird because, all right, so people have always asked this since the beginning of COVID because that's how the bear kind of got born because, well...
I thought the bear was born at the Olympics one year.
The bear has various incarnations, but the first one was during the Sochi Olympics because yours truly was bored.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. But
that bear was scary, by the way.
That was some seriously evil bear juju there.
Yeah.
But all joking aside, we take a lot of things into consideration with the Nightmare Bear chances. One of them, obviously, is betting odds. Another is how the teams are playing. The idea of can Team X win however many games it's going to take to avoid the bear.
Right.
And, of course, the twist in all this is if somebody wins in the final round, then that means they get praise from the Nightmare Bear. That means they survived the bear.
That's true. They did survive the bear. One team is going to survive the bear. Yeah. And look, all kidding aside, and I said this the other night to somebody, and I'll go back to the end of these conference finals games for a minute. These superstitions and all this stuff, and I go back to what Pozo said, and I've said what Rodriguez has talked about. Why can't we talk about it? Why can't we talk about winning? Yes, the mindset from the Florida Panthers is handle business, handle your business. We're not there yet. We still have a business to take care of. This is what we heard from the Devils in 95 after they were up 3-0. The fourth game's always the hardest. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but they're focused and determined on what they have to do today. They're not even talking about it, but they know they got to do the same job that they've been doing for the last, what is it now? Their 7-game winning streak, 6-game winning streak? in the playoffs.
6-game winning streak.
In the playoffs. He's on fire right now. But you look at it, right? And they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the reason I bring up the end of the conference finals is it doesn't matter if you touch the trophy or don't touch the trophy. The best team's going to win the Stanley Cup, plain and simple. And the Florida Panthers from the start of the playoffs have been the best team. And you can make the argument they were probably the best team in the regular season too, start to finish. And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because no team's going to touch it. The best team's going to win. So that goes out the window to me. And if it ends tonight, Sergei Bobrovsky, Conn Smythe?
Has to be. The numbers have tilted so much. They were always going pretty much after game one. It was kind of signed, sealed, and delivered. And then,
right.
Obviously, there's other questions with Bobrovsky that those are the court of public opinion questions.
Right.
Wait till later. How this team goes down, and they got to take again business.
Right.
Take care of business first.
Right, exactly. You got to take care of business first. You got to handle your business. You got to just play the game that they've been playing for success. That's why I said 60 minutes to success. This is what the Florida Panthers have done. Yes, early in the third period in game 3, they went away from their system a little bit and it allowed the Oilers to score. But again, 2 of those goals, one went off Nico Mikola's elbow and the other went off Ryan McLeod in, because Brett Kulak was not afraid to throw the puck on net. Philip Broberg was not afraid to throw the puck on net. The top stars from the Edmonton Oilers cannot be afraid to throw pucks on net. I know it's boring, and the old cliche, pucks in deep and pucks on net, and everybody gets tired of it. I get it. But it works. What do the coaches always say? Throw the puck on net. Good things happen when you throw the puck on net. The right. You can't. It's not always the pretty shot. It's usually the ugly one.
Yeah, you're just looking for a little extra chaos that you might get from just doesn't take much.
No,
just a little slight misplay can create. Well, we saw it with Florida several times in these playoffs where they've scored some of the ugliest goals you can imagine.
Yep.
All by just simply getting puck on net.
Pucks on net, baby. That's all you have to do is throw pucks on net. And that's what they did. I mean, that's what, look, Florida's been doing pucks on net for forever. That's a big thing for Paul Maurice. And I think Paul Maurice understands it since being there so many times and coming up short. He understands what the defensive means and the buy-in top to bottom. And like we said, Ekblad, Forsling, Montour, all these guys, the guys that he brought in, the Mr. One Goal a Series, Vladimir Tarasenko got his goal the other night. So Florida is a tough team to play against. It's hard enough to win 1 game against them. To win 4 straight, very tough, even more tough. And that's the hole the Edmonton Oilers find themselves in heading into Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final, because let's face it, people, they're on their last legs and they really need to figure out how to score.
Yep. And they have to beat the same team 4 times in a row.
Not easy to do.
No.
So, all right. So from earlier in the day, it looks like they were running the same lines as they were.
Yeah, I don't see any changes.
I don't see any changes, but Nurse and Kane weren't on the ice, but it's got to feel like they're going to run the same lineup out.
Yep. I don't see. I mean, warm up usually a few minutes away.
A couple minutes, I think.
It's usually it's been around 7:38 or so.
Yeah, so we'll get the line. We'll see who's not on the ice, but look, I think that a thing that has to be talked about here is that Vander Kane being hurt has really hurt the play of Leon Draisaitl, and we know Draisaitl's not 100%, but you can see that when you split up Draisaitl and McDavid, you need to have balance in your lineup, and if one of the guys like Evander Kane is not going, it definitely hurts Draisaitl, his ability out there, because he's really just been stifled by this Florida Panther defense.
Right. They can key on him real easily.
Yep. Oh, you want to talk about the Nightmare Rats too?
We might as well.
All right, let's talk about the Nightmare Rats.
The rats are. I mean, there's been some evil incarnations of things that have come out of what the playoffs. What else? The World Championships.
Yep.
So just in the last couple of months,
the Nightmare Bunnies from the
we
World
had the rabbits. All right,
rabbits. Oh, those were. Oh, I mean, those things were bad.
Okay. So
Ted Starkey, thank you for that. By the way,
thanks, Ted. Once again, in many ways over. Not only for that bear shirt that's behind me, but yeah, you had the rabbits.
Yep.
That. If you watch the Worlds at all, you were instantly traumatized.
Yep.
Because it looked like the show Rabbits, which used to be on Nickelodeon, and they kind of looked as diminutive and dumb like them. So it had that look, and then obviously the rats, which I mean, look, we there's a long line of list of cousins and relatives. You know, Pizza Rat from the city. You could go up and down the line here. But, I mean, Florida, obviously, with the tradition of throwing the rats, that's been around since
a long time.
You know, I was a youngin.
Yep.
It's good times. Now, like we said, here's the thing with tonight. When does the Nightmare Bear warning come out?
Florida has the lead midway through the
third
second.
Period?
I was gonna say second, but I might be early. Late second for the Bear.
See, the baby bear was highly disappointing because unfortunately Cleveland had this like knack of scoring at the last possible second.
Right. So I guess I would say third. Nightmare Bear. If Florida has the lead or the game is tied, I think Nightmare Bear warning comes out.
Yeah, because look, Edmonton really. Let's be honest. They need the start that they had in Game 6 against Dallas, and then the foot needs to just stay hammered on the gas pedal.
Yeah, they need to they need to go back to some of these games they've had in earlier rounds, where they've gotten out to big leads, except they couldn't hold those leads. But you have to figure out a way to get a lead on this team. But they've shown that the lead doesn't really matter. Let's be honest.
It's something else. They just have
the Florida Panthers just don't care where they play. They don't.
I mean, really, if you go through the games of these playoffs, Florida's had probably 2, maybe 3 really bad games.
Yeah.
Like real bad. Obviously the series opener against Boston where they scored the first goal and then just, well, laid an absolute egg. They learned. They came back. They did what they had to do. They defeated Boston pretty easily after that.
Yep.
Obviously, the Ranger series, they went down 2-1. Although arguably, you could say that they could have been up 2-1 easily or up 3-0 even.
Yeah, they played 3 straight overtime games.
2 goofy bounces.
Yeah.
So, again, these are the things that, we've said to people in a number of ways. Look, even the Tampa series, they went to sweep Tampa, and Tampa found and that's what some people are saying. Well, maybe something like that could happen tonight, where you have the high octane team that can somehow find their way for a little bit.
Yeah, but even in that Tampa game that they lost in Game 4, they got close enough where you thought they were going to tie the game, and they ended up not tying the game.
They had people forget they had a shot. Tampa Bay came out they just went ham.
Right.
They scored 3 goals, looked dominant. I mean, they scored every way possible. They scored power play shorthanded and 4-on-4.
Right.
No, it was 4-on-4. The
4-on-4.
The point goal.
It was still even strength. So
yeah. And then Florida comes back and scores 3 of the next 4 goals, and you're kind of thinking, wait a minute. But yes, Tampa ultimately won that game. But even then, Florida, and that's what we're saying here. Edmonton is playing a team that legitimately just, they keep coming.
Yeah.
They keep coming. They stay close. They keep coming. I mean, you go back to the end of the regular season, they won 4 straight. And I point out what would seemingly be a nondescript game very late in the season where Florida looked downright sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
And before overtime, Paul Maurice basically pulled his team together and was just like, what's going on here?
Right.
And then Sam Reinhart just goes, yep, okay, I got this. No problem. Him and Barkov, one simple play, boom, back of the net. And that's the type of thing that Florida has when everything gets tight, everything gets condensed.
That's
Florida
what they
rises
do.
up.
Right. That's what they do. That's what they do. Because there's no panic in their game. They play the same way. And look, they were able to lock it down. Even when it was 4-3, they got back to their system. Ekblad, off that final draw, kills about 30 seconds in the corner, like just pins the puck against the wall, and that was pretty much all she wrote. Florida Panthers play a certain way. They'll always play a certain way since Paul Maurice is there, and that's why they're one win away from hoisting the first Stanley Cup in franchise history. And let's face facts, no disrespect to Minnesota, but if the Florida Panthers win, that'll be the 3rd cup for the state of Florida in the last 5 years. And, be the 4th one overall because Tampa has 3. That's the new state of hockey, folks. And it's electric. Been there. Building's been loud. They understand the moment. They expected to be here. This is what they've talked about. Finish the story. Unfinished business. All the cliches. The time for talking for the Florida Panthers has been over. They just go. Their work on the ice speaks for themselves. And this is why they're one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. And potentially everybody's going to have their name on a Stanley Cup potentially at the end of this game tonight. We're going to see what happens, obviously. Anything can happen. We know that. Team can just, the moment's just too big. The last sweep in a Stanley Cup final was 1998. That was also the last time. It was like 4 straight years of sweeps in the Stanley Cup. In the Stanley Cup final, which was crazy to think about, right? Like, who would have thought 95, 96, 97, 98 were just going to have sweeps? But they did. And we could potentially see our first sweep in the final in a long time. But that's because the Florida Panthers are just that good.
And that's what it comes down to. You have one team that plays the big points like it's their lives, and you have one team that keeps fumbling them away.
Yep.
That's the difference in the series.
Yep. So we're going to see what happens here in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. Again, potentially we'll be back again on Tuesday for Game 5. We don't know. But like I said, off the top, the best damn pregame show in the business, the Full Press Hockey Weekly Stanley Cup Final pregame show, again, presented by Bet Altiques. 25% off using the promo code FPH24, monthly, yearly subscriptions. Again, the plays, Evan Rodriguez, overshot totals of 1.5 hit last game, by the way. We're hitting everybody on Panthers and over-unders as well. And Connor McDavid under assist and a half. So see if those plays work out for you. Again, this has been the Full Press Hockey Weekly Show, up live on Spitball Sports, All in One Sports, Full Press Hockey Podcast on YouTube, at Full Press NHL on Twitter. Catch the replay before the game. Guys, Jim Biringer, Chris Wassel out. Enjoy the Stanley Cup Final, Game 4. We'll be back either with a wrap of this series, and we'll be talking about news and notes, or we'll be teeing up Game 5. But until then, enjoy your Saturday night. Enjoy Game 4. We'll talk to you again real soon.